argument against people engaging in sort of non-traditional relationships is kind of weak if you have to instantly pivot into like, well, what about the kids?
Yeah, I think there's a design of how we were created to function in a one man, one woman covenantal arrangement. Now, I think everything outside of that is unhelpful. And I think there is something wrong with, I think porn is a total net negative to society. I'm not sure how many of you guys is like fans that watch you regularly, you've met in person, and how this affects them. But I mean, Andrew Huberman did a whole long thing about what happens when someone consumes. They open up a feedback loop that's intended to be consumed with someone else. So I think it's very hard to make the argument that is helping people as much as it's harming people. It's keeping a lot of these guys regressed. It's keeping, I mean, the incel community, the red pill stuff. A lot of the people that rail against you guys probably secretly go and watch this stuff, which is a really bizarre thing. We've seen it with the fresh and fit girls. So I don't know if, as a net positive, this is something, remove the kids. Like, this is something that you think is actually adding to human flourishing.
But everyone tries to always focus on like the extreme watcher, but I think that there's like very healthy consumers, which are probably the majority with consumption. And like, I don't think that like women consume too, and I don't think they're sitting around all day just to. I mean, we both consume it at a very moderate level. I don't know.
You guys created, so it's a bit different.
Why we feel comfortable doing it again, even after having been so massively in the news over the past couple of months. You know?
Adam, you don't see the increase in opening a relationship up to risk, though. We're just giving you statistics. 90% of relationships, you guys are functionally in a non-monogamous relationship, even though privately you may not be. It seems like you guys have something special, and it seems like you guys have a child and a beautiful family. You decided to get married, you decided to say the vows, and it seems like there's this roaring going on inside of you guys where you have certain values and you have certain things that you want for your kids in this unit, yet at the same time, I'm just perplexed by the motivation. Like,
I don't see those things to be contradictory, that we want to have a great life for our kids and stuff, and then we also are willing to, you know, do
I'm talking about for your
things.
own union. Like it seems like this increases the likelihood of this potentially ending, which I don't want for you guys.
We've never really discussed it in those terms. I don't think of it that way, and I think if anything, it kind of made our sex life a little bit more exciting for a period of time. Just the fact that I had a little bit of competition, a little bit more of a reason to go hard, you know? I don't necessarily think that's the worst thing.
There's a freedom inside of a covenantal relationship to try things and to explore and to do things that if you're out here and you're raw dogging it, you don't know who has what and all the stipulations that go into that life, there's a freedom you have, there's a protection you have, there's a trust that you have in a relationship where it's just you and the other person.
And that's why I do think that the sexual revolution has overall been probably negative for most women, because the truth is that as a man, you can have sex with any woman and, you know, bust it in 5-10 minutes and you're good, you just had a good time. Whereas for a woman, realistically, the first time you have sex with a guy, you have like an infinitesimal percentage chance that you're going to, and you're realistically only going to end up having positive experiences by sleeping with the same guy over and over and really learning how to connect with him.
It's called marriage.
Totally, and I get that. I also just think women, you know, should feel free to do what they want to do, but I also, in terms of what I would tell, you know, any woman in my life, what I would recommend for them, I would say, you know, hold your in high esteem.
Porn aside, if my daughter was like wanted to explore her, like, I don't think that's a bad thing. Like, I don't think that's unethical.
But you guys just both acknowledge you wouldn't want your daughter to do that.
It wouldn't be my ideal choice, thing.
So isn't that a bit inconsistent, though, that creates something that you wouldn't want your offspring? Like, we want our kids to be better than us, so why would you want them to do that? Like, if they're aspiring for you to.
I feel like what I'm doing allows my daughter to have a better life. Like, we're going to be able to like put her through private school because I have the life that I have now. Like, I wouldn't have been able to give her that without that.
My dad was a social worker, and for sure he wanted me to be something bigger and better than a social worker. You know, it's like you always want your kid to do better than you would want to do. You know, I would love if my daughter was, you know, some famed, you know, artist or something. That would be amazing. Do I necessarily think that that's in the cards? I mean, that's kind of a roll of the dice. You never know what your kid's going to get.
How much is enough? Like, financially, like at what point does it just like you I feel like you guys intrinsically know this isn't helpful.
No, I think it's as long as you're having fun. Like whenever we go and
is there a dollar
in a day,
amount?
it's like
no, it's not a dollar
it's basically just like it's fun. Like, I look at my calendar and we're hooking up with a couple of chicks that day, and I'm like, oh wow, what a great Wednesday. It's like very profitable and
if it
fun.
didn't feel good anymore, like there are times
meth feels good.
Like, sometimes we have more on camera than we do off camera. And those weeks I don't feel like as connected to him. I'm like, wow, we've just been working so much. Like, I don't feel like we've been fostering our relationship. And in those weeks, if like we didn't take that break and that pause and talk about it and reconnect, then I could see myself being like, I don't want to do this anymore because it's interfering with our relationship.
And it does feel good, but the downside of meth is much worse.
You know,
Do you think there's any
having
down-
actually done it, it's not that great. Whereas the downside of having, you know, a threesome with some girl on camera is that at the end of the money, you get a bunch of money in the mail. So to me,
in the
it's
interim,
very different.
you guys don't know potential consequences down the road.
I mean, we've been doing it for a long time, and I wouldn't really say that we've encountered many negative.
Picture of this acceptance in a marriage, and also desiring to take care of yourself for your partner, to serve your partner, right? And I've been with my wife 15 years. We've both been overweight. I've been obese. She's had kids. We're in better shape now. We're lean. It's something that's a value of ours. My question would just simply be, it seems like we've all tried all of these things. We've tried all of these ideologies and all these puzzles that we have to piece together. Have you guys ever genuinely considered like trying Jesus, repenting of your sin, and really applying God's wisdom
Yeah, Adam.
for your life? That's not just
Not
to
so
Adam.
much.
I'm genuinely
kidding.
asking. You're Armenian. Our people have a beautiful, rich history. We're the first Armenian nation. We didn't have a written language until we translated the Bible into a written language. We have an amazing rich, the most persecuted church, right? So like genuinely, like it seems like we've tried all these other things. We've tried doing it our own way. We're trying all this ideology, trying all these, where's the line? And you know, have we genuinely ever looked at the scriptures and considered that maybe Jesus is who he says he is? Maybe he is God. Maybe he's not a liar. Maybe he's not a lunatic. Maybe he's not a good prophet. And genuinely repented of our ways and tried it God's way.
I 1,000% believe in God and Jesus and know all of that.
That wasn't what I asked.
But you don't understand my point of view.
Like, what would happen if all of society actually implemented the wisdom of God? Like, genuine question. If people waited until marriage to have
Truthfully, you're asking me about religion?
specifically about Jesus,
About Jesus?
hedging your
Oh,
faith on the
Jesus.
resurrection of
loves
Jesus,
me. I know that.
and living your life his way.
I'm a man of God. That's all
I'm
I
a
can say.
woman of
That's all I'm
God.
gonna say.
Yeah, I think I'll just leave it at that.
Personally, you know, I've done quite a bit of research and digging and trying to convince myself that Jesus was a real person or that I should be invested in his teachings. Haven't really been too convinced, so I'm still kind of waiting to be convinced that this is something I should put my energy into. The vast majority of thinkers that I respect or read or listen to are atheists. So for me personally, it's not really an issue. Like, there's just not enough evidence to me that there's anything of value to offer from Christianity. It's like, realistically, probably the best thing that you could do is like fall in love, get into a relationship with a girl, get married, split your expenses, have a family, etc. once you feel comfortable financially. But like, you know, we just live in a society where we're constantly surrounded by people who are putting on examples of doing the other thing, which is basically like mindlessly chasing and you know, highs and money or whatever for your whole life. And that is kind of like a weird thing that the manosphere has to sort of reckon with, which is that somebody like Andrew Tate being like at the forefront of the manosphere now, it's like you can't really necessarily just be pushing an agenda of like, yo, as many girls
Right.
as possible, because Andrew Tate is out here saying like, no, that is not going to make you happy in
Yeah,
the long
that's
run.
good.
And anyone who's really being honest with you is going to let you know that's not going to make you happy in the long run.
That was very profound. And I think what we're saying is, statistically speaking, the majority of men and women will have kids. What is the optimal way to build a family? If we're talking about dating, we're talking about relationships, what's the optimal way to cause the most amount of flourishing to the most amount of people? And what has worked through and through all these civilizations? I think that's the crux of what we're getting on. So what you're saying is totally spot on. And it's not red pill, blue pill to me. There's a lot of goofy things from both sides, a lot of nonsense being pushed. But if we're talking about the optimal flourishing environments, because we're all